Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us today. It is truly, truly an honor to be standing before you with our State Attorney, Brian Haas. You've heard me say before, he is just the very best. He's hands-on, as he and his team were in this protracted investigation. And our CFO, Blaise Ngolia. What's really exciting about our CFO is that this is kind of the first time we've had a CFO that goes, hey, I want to be involved with my criminal investigation division at every level of crime and fraud in this state. And he's here with us as well. Chief Terry Story of the Auburndale Police Department's here with us, and the three of them will speak. We also have Detective Henrik Osted from the Marion County Sheriff's Office representing his sheriff. Sheriff Vint Crawford from Hardy County, my colleague and friend, helps us on every operation. There are other groups that helped us in this investigation, however, they were unable to be with us. The Highlands County Sheriff's Office, the Osceola County Sheriff's Office, the Pasco County Sheriff's Office, the San Francisco, California Sheriff's Office. Now, they came here to see how we did this because they want to go after these child predators in San Francisco. You know, that's like fishing in a barrel. And then there's the Lake City Police Department and the Orlando Police Department that were very valuable to us as well. We're calling this operation Poke Around and Find Out, Child Predator 8. And it's important to understand that this particular operation was only 1 week long. We started on Monday, April the 20th, and by Sunday, April 26th, we'd wrapped it up. We arrested 19 people, 16 of which traveled thinking they were going to engage children in illegal sex. We call them child deviants, child predators, pedophiles. There's not enough bad words to really talk about all of the things that they did and said and the photographs they sent, thinking that they were sending them to children. But let me highlight some of the folks. Now I want to start, we teased this thing yesterday and there was a lot of work. You know, Christmas time is very important. We like Christmas. Scott, here, you can hold this. But as you may well understand, there's this fellow called Santa Claus. And we arrested Santa Claus. Now, I want all the children that may be watching this to understand it's not the real Santa Claus, okay? This is a guy, though, who is well known in Polk County and Central Florida and Lakeland as a for-hire Santa Claus. In fact, one of our NGOs that was working with us said, oh my goodness, I've already booked him for a party next Christmas. Nah, that's over with. But it's scary because this guy was well respected in the community. In fact, here's a picture that he took with me at a Rotary meeting just a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. He was very active in our community. And then, of course, you've seen the picture of the Lakeland Christmas Parade. For those not from the area, the Lakeland Christmas Parade is a big, big, big deal. The Junior League puts this on every year, and it is top quality. Mr. and Ms. Claus, we have fogged her out of this picture, are in this. For at least the last decade, he was Santa Claus. No worries. He's not going to be Santa Claus this next year. But who is this guy that hides behind this mask as Santa Claus? While he has these sexual proclivities to batter children and in fact traveled to a location thinking he was going to have sex with a little girl. His name is Tom Hicks. He's 68 years old. He works for Tri-County, a mental health and drug addiction group, in marketing. He's a preacher, I'm told, of 40 years. He is a professional Santa Claus. He is well regarded in the community. Detectives working the operation this last week showed me a photograph of his children sitting on Santa Claus's lap while he and his wife stood next to them. Thousands and thousands and thousands of children have sat on this guy's lap thinking he was Santa Claus, when in fact what he was a child sex predator. So what did he do on this occasion? Our colleague from Marion County was the undercover and did a really remarkable job. He responded to an ad online, and he said, "Hey, I'm looking to have sex with a 13-year-old child, a little girl." And he thought he was talking to the father of the child. Well, he was talking to our undercover detective. And he said, "I just want to have 1 hour's worth of sex, and I'll pay $200. And then he asked the father, "Do you want to be in the room, or are you going to be in the room while I have sex with your daughter?" And they said, "No, not really." He said, "Well, don't worry. I'll be gentle. I'll be real gentle. I'm kind of old, and I'll be really easy with her." Ladies and gentlemen, that's how dangerous these people are. So how about his criminal history? Zero criminal history. How about the remorse he showed when he was arrested? Zero remorse when he was arrested. The only thing he was concerned about was his reputation as Santa Claus. Interestingly enough, after our investigation's over with, we embed Chris Hansen, and you remember him from the old To Catch a Predator day. He has a program, and he goes with undercovers across the nation. He was with us. Tom Hicks talked to Chris for 40 minutes and told him some really remarkable things. Well, I understand Chris is supposed to be on Jesse Waters tonight, and he'll probably share more details with you there or either on True Blue. But I want you to understand that the person behind this happy face is a deviant. He's a pedophile. And we have presented felonies to our state attorney and his ace number 1 team, and we will do our best to keep him locked up in prison for the rest of his life. And we're broadcasting this today because, in addition to that, if by some chance he were to get out in the future, we want to make sure he is no longer a Santa Claus. I talked to the real Santa Claus today, and he's pissed. I just want to let you know. Santa Claus said, "It's people like that that give me a bad reputation, and here I spend all this time going all around the world delivering presents to wonderful little boys and girls." Sheriff, I'm glad you got him locked up. Well, he wasn't the only one. Now, I've just picked out a few. Every one of these are deviants. Some of them, one of them was on public assistance. That's right, your tax dollars was paying $900 a month for him to sexually seek out children. Every one of these folks were looking to hurt children. So how about Ahmad Morrissey? He's 36 from Spring Hill. Do you know he's from Egypt? And he was a dentist in Egypt. And when he came to this country, of course, he couldn't practice as a dentist. So he was a dental hygienist for the Shurab, Shuyab Dental Institute. Now he's locked up in jail. All of these folks are still in jail. You know, he admitted to having sex with this child. He said, I looked at Florida law to see how young I could legally have sex with people. I thought she was 16. Well, he doesn't read English real well because he cannot have sex with a child at 16, but that's not who he thought he was attacking here. So what he did, because he wanted to make this a special evening, he brought marinated chicken. So he was going to cook chicken, marinated chicken, for the child and he to enjoy dinner before or after they had sex. He has 0 criminal history. He's charged with many felonies. As a result, we hope he goes to prison for a long time. And then there's Lonnie Hill Sr. He's 62. He traveled about 3 hours from Riviera Beach. Our detective from the Orlando Police Department worked with us. He had been grooming her, thinking she was a child, for 5 weeks. For 5 weeks. And he traveled to Lakeland. She, as the undercover, said, well, I'm going to Lakeland to be with my aunt this weekend. And he said, great, I'll meet you in Lakeland. So he rented a Motel 6. So he already had the motel room in check. And he was ready to take her there. The undercover said, well, will you bring condoms? We don't need a 13-year-old girl pregnant. So we have video evidence of him just before meeting her at a park. At least he thought it was a her. Going into the local store to purchase condoms. He resisted us. He was not going to get out of the car. In the process, one of my deputies' legs got twisted up in the scrum and broke his leg and also his ankle. But as a result of great work by our undercover from Orlando Police, this guy is going to prison for a very long time, we hope, as well. And then, of course, there's the Uber driver, Noah Berman, from 33, from Orlando. That's right, he brought a fare over to Lakeland and thought, hey, while I'm here, why don't I go ahead and have sex with a 14-year-old boy? Interestingly enough, as this investigation unfolded, we found out that the Orange County Sheriff's Office is working a sexual battery investigation from 2019 against him, where he supposedly sexually battered a 15 or a 16-year-old child. That's under investigation. He has not been charged, but he has confessed. They're still wrapping up the investigation. In and around this time, he worked for Boys Town of Central Florida. Now, Boys Town is a very well-respected organization to help young men and young ladies in trouble. So, he no longer works there, and we are working with Boys Town as well. This guy is hugely dangerous. And then there's George Bradley. He's 39. He works in IT at Publix. He's married. His wife is 10 weeks pregnant with their child. But he came to have sex with a 14-year-old boy. He has no criminal history. Think about this. He left his pregnant wife at home thinking he was going to have sex with a 14-year-old little boy. You can't fix these people. We got a hitch in their giddy up. Their elevator don't go all the way to the top. It stops at P, pedophile floor. It stops at P, predator floor. It stops at C, child predator floor. These are dangerous people. I could go on about all of them, but I think you get the point. The detectives from the sheriff's office, my team is simply the very best, and we amass the very best from around the state to work with us on these operations. And you're going to hear from our state attorney and certainly from our CFO, some of the professionals that they assigned to this case to make sure that we could make the best case. But I want to take one more second for you to understand. They travel to a park, to a location, thinking they were having sex with your children. And they would have groomed and had sex with your children had these wonderful detectives not done their job. With that, let me introduce you to Mr. Haas, our state attorney.
Thank you, Sheriff. I want to start by saying thank you to Sheriff Judd. I cannot think of one single person who has done more to take on these child predators over his career. Just this one operation alone has potentially saved countless children from being victimized. And if you think of all of the work that he's done over the years with his great detectives, what an incredible individual. And just to stand up here, I'm proud to stand with him. The detectives that worked on these cases, they do an amazing job. They've got to do their job, but they have to anticipate legal defenses, criminal defenses that may come up, because we've got to prosecute these cases now. It's very important to arrest them. It's very important to get them off the streets. But my team is ready to prosecute these cases and put these people where they belong. But cumulatively, it must be so tough for these detectives to have to deal with this subject matter again and again and again. So a big thank you to them. As a parent, and for everyone out there, whether you're a parent, a grandparent, or just somebody in your life that's a kid that you care a lot about, this just leaves a pit in my stomach when I read some of this stuff. And I think of people who are in positions of trust and respect in our community that would do this to a child. And here's the unsettling thing. They're out there right now trying to figure a way to get to your children. We're going to do what we can with these folks here and the ones that have come before. But right now there are people that are working very hard to try to find your children. So if you think that you've got great locks on your house, or that you have an alarm system, or that you're real careful, you're not doing your job. They're making their way around the physical barriers and talking directly to your children. So get involved. This should be a wake-up call for everyone. I cannot think of another place besides Polk County that would have more information out there for parents, yet it still happens here all the time. So please take that message to heart and watch out for your kids. So appreciate all the work that was done here, and we're ready to get to work and do some prosecution. Thank you.
I want to introduce once again our CFO, Blaze Ngolia. He's taken that office to the next level and the next level and the next level. And it is very impressive to us that you care so much about the children, so much about making sure that the bad guys are locked up and that our children are safe, that you sent us a whole team of folks. So thank you for taking the office to the next level and the next level, and thank you for the huge presence during this operation.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Sheriff. My name is Blaze Ngolia. I'm the CFO of the great state of Florida. It is an honor to serve in that position. Most of you know that, my big jobs these days are rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse from government. I'm the state fire marshal, but what many people may not know is that I actually have a whole law enforcement division. We have 300 sworn law enforcement officers working underneath our office, and we spend most of our time with financial crimes. We're putting people away for escrow violations, stealing money, insurance fraud. Recently we put, I think it was 10 or 12 state employees away in jail for stealing about $1.7 million. But with that law enforcement division, I saw that there was an opportunity. This is an issue that is near and dear to my heart. So we have reached out to law enforcement, and Sheriff, the sheriff has been leading on this issue here with these sting operations. I said, hey, if we have law enforcement, we want to be able to help. So we want to be able to repurpose some of our people and add value to what the sheriffs are doing in terms of going after these online predators. And while I'm here, I want to personally thank each and every one of not only my law enforcement officers, but every law enforcement officer who is part of these sting operations, the detectives who've collected all the information and the receipts to hand over to our state's attorneys so we can get these bad guys put in jail. A heartfelt thank you for that. Now, I have been, like I said, this is sort of a passion of mine, putting these people away. I'm doing it now as CFO because I am passionate about it, and I was passionate about it when I was in the legislature. As a state senator, we had worked with the state's attorney's office in figuring out new ways so we can put some of these people behind jail, behind bars. I had developed a grant program at the state where law enforcement can go and draw down money in terms of technologies to help run these sting operations. So I'm so passionate about this, I've actually been on the inside of these sting operations. I have been in the room when some of this chatting has been going on. And I will tell you, and this is the scary part, and this is what I want everyone to understand, that as soon as they flip that switch, when it is go time, and they open up the chats and they start receiving all the information, as soon as they flip that switch, they're getting flooded with people just like these. And it is nonstop. These are the people that they actually got arrested. I will tell you that there are hundreds, if not thousands more, that are not being caught because they're just evading. They don't have, but it's not going to stop these guys. They're going to continue going after these people as much as they possibly can. But every parent needs to understand that when you hand your child a smartphone and they're on their smartphone, these guys are waiting for your child to log on. There is no better picture than to look at if parents want your kids talking to these guys after hours, there's something wrong with you. And that's why we need to make sure that we are doing everything that we possibly can to protect our children from these online predators, from the online harm. And look, here's we were talking before we come up here, and it came up that, a bank robber once said, why did you go rob the bank? And the answer was because that's where the money is there. When they do these operations and they are online in chat rooms and on social media, why are they doing it? Because that's where the predators are. So when you're handing your kid a smartphone, you're handing them the ability for some of these child predators to reach out and groom your kid for nefarious purposes. Whether it be sexual abuse material, whether it be child porn, whether it being meet up to have sex with an underage kid, it is reprehensible, it is a sickness, and every single one of these people will eventually go to jail. It is only a matter of time. I know that our law enforcement cares about it. I know our sheriff cares about it. All the sheriffs, all the police chiefs. I know that the governor, the cabinet, I personally care about this, and we will not rest until we put each and every one of these people behind bars so they can never, ever hurt another child again. But the parents of the children in this sting actually got lucky. And they got lucky because the person these child predators were talking to were detectives and law enforcement officers who were on the other side of that phone. But that is not always the case. Sometimes you will have, not sometimes, many of the times, you'll have a mom and a dad sit there and contact the state's attorney's office, contact the sheriff's office, contact the police chief, and say that, hey, we think our child is being groomed, and there's somebody on the other end of that phone that is making sexually suggestive comments, sending nudes, requesting nudes, transmitting child porn. And what happens? I'm going to tell you this is what happens. I'm going to be very, very, very critical of the social media industry right now in big tech. Because what happens, and the state's attorneys will tell you this, and they will verify this. You talk to any state's attorney, any prosecutor, any detective, and they will all tell you the same thing, is that the unlucky ones are the parents and the kids that actually go and try to have this information brought to them, and then they want the proof. But where's the proof? The proof somehow disappears. because these social medias, the big tech oligarchs are sitting there. Now everything is end-to-end encryption. Now they have disappearing messages. You guys all know that all the criminals are using the social media platforms to go after the kids, to attract kids, to have conversation with these kids, because they know they are using the system where there is disappearing messages. I do not think that it's right. It would be much easier to put a lot of these scumbags away if we were able to get the evidence, and the evidence was not destroyed by some of these big tech companies. The last time I checked, destroying evidence in a criminal investigation was a crime, was it not? Maybe we should take some of these social media executives and charge them with the destruction of evidence during a crime, and maybe they should spend 5 years in jail. This is how important this is. I cannot tell you how many times I hear these stories of parents or from state's attorneys saying, hey, we tried to put the bad guy in jail, but we put a request in to the social media company and they say that they can't do anything. The information is gone. Please do not tell me with a straight face that you cannot retrieve this information. With everything that we can do technology-wise, and you have a 65-year-old man, a 78-year-old man, a 46-year-old man talking to your 12 or 13-year-old child, and you cannot retrieve those messages, the messages that could be used in a court of law to put these scumbags away so they don't hurt another child, the social media companies should ask themselves a very simple question. Are you here to protect the kids, or are you here to protect the criminals and the profits? That's the question that should be asked of every single social media executive in this country today. Because the last time I checked, we're here to protect kids, not embolden criminals to go after our kids online and use the excuse of privacy. Privacy does not hold up in a court of law. Evidence does. And if you were destroying evidence, I believe you should go to jail also.
Thank you very much. And for those that are in charge of these big companies, maybe you should listen to your wife, because I'm sure she would say, you're protecting those evil people that are trying to attack children. What if they were attacking our child? We've got to hold them accountable. So next, we're going to speak with us Terry Story. He's the police chief of Auburndale. He is shoulder to shoulder with us in all of our major investigations. He retired from the sheriff's office. He's a dear friend of mine. He's a professional in every sense of the word, but we enjoy working together just as we always have. But now we have a force multiplier with the Auburndale Police Department. Chief, come on up.
Thank you, Sheriff. I actually paid him to say all that. So this was a sting operation, which means that there weren't really any victims. But I'm here to tell you that there are victims out there, and we've investigated these crimes, and you have the parents that will tell you the most frustrating thing that they will say is, I just wanted to give my child privacy on their phone. That is a load of crap. You need to be you get one chance to raise your children, one, and you need to be involved in every aspect of their life, including digging deep into that cell phone and seeing what they're doing online and seeing who they're chatting with. So if there's one thing that you can do to help us, get involved. Make sure that you're looking at their phones. Make sure you know what they're doing online, because this is the result of these people got caught. Not everybody does, as Mr. Haas mentioned earlier. So if you want to be involved with your kids. Make sure you know exactly what they're doing online. Limit their online time. Take their phones. But you need to be involved. Thank you very much.
This last week, they were coming after your children, but because of the talent of these detectives, we got in between your child and child sex predators and stopped them cold. Now, let me go ahead and give you the rest of the story. Poke around and find out. We'll have a press conference Friday, I think, at 10 o'clock. We arrested a total of 266 people in our human trafficking operation and our Child Protector 8 operation. So there's 247 more that while we were looking for victims of human trafficking that we haven't talked about today. So stand by for news. We're out protecting the people and the community and recovering victims of human trafficking. And once again, this team was with us when we did that. And as I close out, I want to talk about our NIA, our National Innovation Academy. These ladies and gentlemen come from around the state and around the nation to learn about STEM processes as it relates to law enforcement. They're the best trained in the nation, going to our National Academy here. So thank you all for being with us. Thank you for being part of the operation, and we look forward to you taking these seeds and spreading them around the nation in your agencies or enhancing operations that you all are doing. But our NIA, our National Innovation Academy, is STEM-based, and we're looking at how we can use technology to catch bad guys before bad guys catch your children. Are there any questions?
I have a question for State Attorney Haas. You know, these operations have been going on for a while now. What's the conviction rate?
Well, thankfully, because of the work of the detectives, like I was talking about before, they're very careful how they go about doing this, and we know that there are certain defenses that are raised, which is why I'm so impressed with the work that's done to make sure that the cases are being worked up correctly. So because of that, the conviction rates are very quite high. I can get some specifics to you, but with these types of cases, we have a great level of success because of all the hard work that goes into these cases. The cases, when they come to us, if they're worked up properly, we're in a much better position to be able to get justice on behalf of our community.
And are the sentences?
Yes, the great thing is in Florida we have some great laws. Our legislature and our governor have been working for many years to make sure that the laws are sufficient enough to justify the types of crimes that we're prosecuting. So, the human trafficking, they've really worked hard to get those cases some very good sentences, and so it's a first-degree felony punishable by up to 30 years in prison on just one count alone. And you start adding in some other ones, traveling to meet a minor, unlawful use of a two-way communication device, and the stacking effect is it's very good.
To follow up on that, can you talk about, and this may be for the sheriff as well, can you talk about the steps, the attention to detail that make sure that the cases meet legal standards for prosecution?
Well, we've been doing these cases long enough to know that there's going to be certain defenses that are going to be raised. Entrapment, or I didn't know, it was role play, it was this, it was that. So over the years, we've learned from that. And that's why it's so important to have a good working relationship with your law enforcement partners. It's not just a handing of the baton. When Sheriff Judd sends us a case, when law enforcement in our circuit sends us a case, it's not a here you go, good luck. It's we've already been talking. We're at these operations. We're strategizing with the undercover detectives to make sure that we have the work that needs to be done. And then once we get the case, it's an ongoing process. If we need something else, we need additional information, more witnesses, whatever it is, it's a simple call to our law enforcement partners, and they're with us to the very end. And that's pretty special.
I had a question for Sheriff Judd. You mentioned Thomas Hicks was a preacher in the area. Do you know if he was tied to a specific church and was currently pastoring at it?
We've not been able to determine that he's tied to a specific church. We know that he brags about being a preacher in the community and has been by one set of standards for 40 years. But no, there's not a specific church that we have found out that he's specifically affiliated with. We've asked those questions.
Sure. Talk about this skipthegames.com. Is that a website that was the website that Mr. Hicks used according to the affidavit? Is that something that is used for solicitation of prosecution?
We don't talk about the websites that we use or the techniques that we use, because if we do, we're just educating the sexual deviant so that they can try to meander around that. But I can tell you that wherever children are, that's where child predators go. So you can look at any gaming site or any site where children are, and that's where they meet them, and that's where the grooming begins. And then they may move them to other sites or ask for pictures of body parts or submit pictures of body parts to the children.
Will there be any more additional investigation into Hicks' previous interactions with kids?
Certainly, that's one of the reasons for press conferences. If there is something out there that a parent thought, well, that looks suspicious, but, you know, he's well regarded. He's all over this county in Central Florida. In fact, Sheriff Crawford said he was doing some work in the county south of us. And he's such a well-known guy. I won't say anything because, you know, I don't want to say something if there's nothing to it. Well, there's something to it if Tom Hicks was around and your child says that they were inappropriately approached or touched. So we want to know about that.
Sheriff, you know, Thomas Hicks was a person of trust. What was your initial reaction when you found out he had been arrested? I mean, clearly you knew who he was, and
sure.
Just curious on what your initial reaction was.
My initial reaction was I was elated. It warmed my heart that we arrested the Santa Claus light because he was in a position of trust where people all across this community trusted him and trusted him for years. One of the ladies from Junior League said, well, I know at least a decade he's been the Santa in the Christmas parade. Well, there's 30, 40, 50,000 people that have seen him online. He's had thousands upon thousands of children set on his lap. He was trusted in the community, and there was no reason that any of those parents or anyone else shouldn't trust him. So to say that I was overjoyed is an understatement. To say that we certainly look forward to the opportunity of putting him in prison for the rest of his life and making an example for anyone else that may want to hide behind Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny or any other child event to get to children. We're coming after you. If you're the Easter Bunny, we'll hop you right in prison to go with Santa Claus. You can go ho, ho, ho in the bunny too, okay? Anything else? Thank you all. God bless you. See you next time. Friday at 10. Be there or not be cool, okay?
Hello everyone, it's Bryden here. I came across this video in my archives this morning and I just wanted to share it with you. The issue of human trafficking has been blowing up lately due to the release of the movie Sound of Freedom. I'd like to tell you that it's not just overseas and in inner cities that we see this horrific crime. It's right in each and every one of our neighborhoods, in our backyards, and pretty much is in our face even though we may not realize it. The video here features Sheriff Swanson. He's the head of the Genesee County Human Oppression Strike Team, or GHOST for short. He's one of my favorite sheriffs, and he's on par with the legendary Grady Judd. This video is from last winter, and the victim in this video is 20 years old, but the latest statistics from the Department of Justice show that 50% of identified girl victims are aged between 15 and 17, whereas about 40% of trafficked boys are under 12 years of age. But with that being said, let's just sit back and try to relax and try to enjoy the video.
These are the kinds of things that happen in Genesee County, they happen in Flint, they happen in Michigan, they happen around the country. People that have teeth, that are filed down to points, that are threatening to rip out the throat of victims. It happens. And that's the case I'm going to tell you about right here. I'm going to take you through actually the whole process, because I want you to be aware that grooming started this tragedy, and then it led into being barricaded in the house. It led into multiple sexual assaults over a 3-week period of time by this guy right there. Michael Barajas, a 36-year-old male that filed his teeth down to points. Here's what happened. On the week of Thanksgiving, 2022, a 20-year-old victim who was kicked out of her house, was walking on the street, had not had a shower or had hygiene in several days. A vehicle pulls up, sees the vulnerability, and offers a shower, food, warmth, and she accepts. Gets into a house very similar to this. And as soon as she walks in, she's now barricaded. And I tell you what they did. They locked her in a door in a room after they tied her to the bed. We've got the rope, we've got the bed, and then we got these kinds of locks. These locks right here, with the lock on the outside, this is the kind of room that she was housed in until she was rescued on the 8th of December this year. In fact, even if she wanted to get out, let me tell you what happened. Not only locked the doors, but check this out. They said she couldn't. They screwed the windows shut. They screwed them shut. So you couldn't even get out of the windows. Because this guy used this opportunity to not only sexual assault, but have people come over and traffic her as she was tied forcibly to the bed while they assaulted. And we're talking multiple suspects, which is why this is still an open investigation. But as this happened the week of Thanksgiving, and she was barricaded in a house, she was trapped, she not only tried to escape once, not only just twice, it took 3 times for her to try to escape. The first one, she ran out of an open door at the time of an exchange. They chased her down, they shot at her and dragged her back in the car. The second time, she actually ran away and they dragged her back. The third time was because of a medical emergency, and it wasn't for the fact that Hurley Hospital, once again in all our hospitals we have SANE nurses, they recognized this and she gave a statement, and Ghost was deployed on the 8th of December, which was just last week, and he was arrested. It gets worse. If it can't get any worse, it gets worse. Our victim had a medical emergency where she was carrying a baby. Our victim has been traumatized. We have aftercare that's being developed for this victim. The whole scenario is so bizarre because Barajas threatened that if she didn't do everything that he told her to do, that he would bite her neck and rip out her throat. I know this is crude and I know it's disturbing, but I tell you these details because I want it to settle in that Ghost is here to find people like this, hold them accountable. That what we see just doesn't happen in one other state or in that country. It happens right here. But also it started with grooming. And grooming is part of this whole process. It started identifying somebody who's vulnerable. It started by identifying what the need was. They fill the need, and then that's when they trap them in. In fact, there's a fantasy that Barajas did. He made this victim, an adult victim, write a letter, write a note, and describe him as daddy. And we've seen this with other ghost investigations, and I don't want to get for the sake of evidence, but there's statements in the letter that was handwritten, forced to be written by Barajas, describing him as her daddy, a 36-year-old male that was trafficking her out. That is not a relationship. That is not something that people need to be in. That is a complete violation of one's innocence, and certainly is what Ghost dives into to find. I mean, these are these extreme cases that I wanted to bring you. Barajas was arrested. The sheriff's office and Ghost team members raided the house. As soon as we got the information from Deputy Sturza, we were able to assign Ghost team. Detective Walker is the detective that was assigned. We arrested Barajas in the hotel, in the room that he was at. He came out, hands up. He's now in jail. Prosecutor Layton, when we took the case to him, it charged with CSC, it charged with kidnapping, charged with home invasion, charged with CSC 1 multiple counts. The amount of charges, the felonies that we stacked on him, allowed him to be charged, and also he's in jail on a $250,000 plus cash bond. So he's in jail now. But these multiple count felony warrants, they don't even touch what happened to this poor victim. And so I say this to you, we are still actively looking into this case. We know that this guy with those teeth and that guy that matches the description that is under arrest, there's more out there because people came to that location and they started what they thought was going to be a victim that may never have a voice. But we gave her a voice because of the bravery that our Hurley Hospital staff and this victim did to come forward and tell the story. It's bizarre. This guy, he's a monster. And if you look at the teeth that are filed down and the threats of ripping out a throat, then I will say no more. But I bring this story to you because I want you to take advantage of knowing what ghost is and why we're there and the grooming process, and be educated. When you see somebody walking or you see an interaction, call 911. If you see something, report it. Make sure that we're there. Make sure another police agency is doing it, because this girl tried to escape and it didn't happen. And that's why I'm telling you the story. It's houses like this and other houses around that we need to be aware of, but it's not just here. It's everywhere. And so I bring this to you for that reason only. Again, I know it's disturbing. Have conversations about this case. Talk about it. We'll continue to follow through with other suspects that we have. If you have information of anybody that was associated with that guy, then you call 911, you call the sheriff's office, and we'll follow up leads. We're doing our forensic investigations now. The victim is in aftercare. She's being well cared for, and we're going to push this case forward. So I just want to say thank you for tuning in. Share the message, and I'll see you next time.
Wouldn't it be great if every county had a sheriff like Swanson? Sadly, though, he's the only sheriff in the state of Michigan who has a strike team specifically for this type of crime. I would encourage all of you to reach out to your local or state government and try to push for more organizations like this. If we all stand and work together, then we will get something done and we will make a difference.
Never in a million years did I think I would be standing before you telling you why I don't want my dad to go to prison, because never in a million years did I think this would happen. So much has happened in the past 6 months. I haven't seen my dad. I got my driver's license. I graduated high school. I had my grad party. I moved in with my boyfriend. I'm about to start college, and I had my first car accident, and my dad has missed it all. In the beginning, I thought he deserved all this for how much he hurt me and my sister and put us through this, but now I believe he does not need to suffer as much as we have. I don't believe he needs to go to prison for a very long time. I believe if he does go, my mom will struggle more than she already has, and she will lose everything. She will struggle to pay for a mortgage, to parent and take care of 2 children on her own, and she will struggle so much financially. So much has been taken from us, and we don't want something else that is important to be taken. I believe his actions have consequences, but I don't believe he deserves this. Deep down, he will always be my dad, and he has always tried his best. And there were bumps in the road, but I don't. And thanks to the ghost plan, I haven't seen him in 6 months, but I have 2 sisters at home who don't deserve to have their childhood robbed and not to have a dad there. To not have a dad there when they get their driver's license and not to have a dad there when they graduate high school. They deserve to have things that I was not able to have. I don't believe he should be taken, and that my mom should struggle more than she already has. We have a family, don't deserve to go through more than we already have.
Your Honor, there are no words to begin to explain the guilt, shame, self-hate, and remorse that I feel. Feelings that I fear will follow me even after death. I cannot say how sorry I am to my daughters and to my family for the hurt that I have and harm that I have caused them. I have broken the most sacred of trust between a father and a daughter, and I would do anything to be able to change it. I was the one who was supposed to protect them from this, and I failed. Instead, I have scarred them in ways that I could never understand. Scars that they will carry inside for the rest of their life. And I pray that they will find it in their hearts to forgive me one day. When my sins became public in many ways, I felt relief. This huge thing that I had been carrying, trying to live with and hide, was finally out in the open, and I could talk about it and get help. I still do not know how or why I allowed this to happen, but I have been working with therapists weekly from both the VA and Ravenwood to try and understand it, ensure that it never happens again. And I believe I am making progress. this is treatment that I hope to be able to continue. Your Honor, my crimes are egregious, and I do not dispute that. But they are not in line with who I am or my normal behavior. Your Honor, I don't dispute that I deserve to go to prison. However, I believe that if I went to jail, it would only make a bad situation worse. You have read the letters from my daughters and my wife and heard what she just said. These are the victims, and they do not want me to go to prison. Instead, they wish to reconcile and move forward. You have also read in the letters the fact that my wife is currently suffering from seizures as a result of having brain surgery and is unable to work. This means that they would not be able to pay the mortgage, the car payment, or any other bills, and lose everything. I ask Your Honor to show mercy and not to sentence me to prison. And if this is your decision, I will continue therapy. I will get a job to support my family. I will do what is required to reconcile with my family, because that's what they want. And I will follow all orders of the court.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the recommendation of the state is a 4-year prison term on each count of gross sexual imposition. We would be asking that those be run consecutively for a total of 8 years. Your Honor, we did submit a sentencing memorandum outlining our reasons and beliefs that that's an appropriate sentence. There's a few things I would like to highlight for the court, though. Pursuant to 2929.12b, the state does feel that the defendant's conduct is more serious. It's our position that there was physical harm. We do feel that the digital penetration of a minor would constitute physical harm. And Your Honor, as we outlined in our memorandum, counseling services were engaged because of this incident, so the state believes that that speaks to the psychological harm and impact to these victims as well. We also feel the conduct is made more serious given the relationship. This was incidents that took place in the home, that took place when father was going to pick these children up, whether it be on his motorcycle or in his car. So there was a familial relationship there that led to and furthered these acts by the defendant. Your Honor, I'd also like to speak to the mitigation. It's the state's position that I believe there was bipolar disorder and PTSD as a diagnosis. The state has not seen anything indicating that that would lead to these offenses or exacerbate these offenses. I would also like to speak a bit on the remorse of the defendant. Your Honor, the disclosures from the victims in this case spoke on how, at the time of their interview, only months prior, this was taking place. This was not one incident with one child. This was not one incident with two childs. This was several incidents in which this took place. In taking a look at the pre-sentence investigation in this case, Your Honor, I would note that on page 2, the defendant's own words of what happened was that he reached his hand into the pants of one of his children and into the pants of another one of his children. That's his recollection of what took place. What we put before the court in our sentencing memorandum and what the victims in this case shared was far more gruesome than that. It was far more extensive than that.
First of all, you do have a clean record. You have no similar offenses of this type ever. I acknowledge your service, long service to the U.S. military, and also recognize that as a result of that service, you did experience post-traumatic stress. It's been requiring lengthy counseling and medications over the years. And I do recognize from the pre-sentence investigation, you do have a significant history of mental health issues and problems that you have tried to seek counseling for. I'm also in consideration of your family's expressed desires for you to return as soon as possible or be completely, not have any incarceration at all. And I'm also considering in the sentencing the hardship that your absence will work upon your family, as we heard here today. I'm also taking into consideration the prior penalties that have been imposed by me, by this court, for similar offenses over the last several years, especially those involving father-daughter inappropriate illegal relationships. And the law requires me to be consistent with prior sentences in that regard. Lastly, I also have to consider the need for some significant punishment for behaviors that are deemed wholly unacceptable in our society. As you acknowledged today, taking advantage of your relationship to your children and ruining their innocence. And no doubt destroying their faith in you as their father, at least for a period of time. So in light of all those factors, in light of the purpose and principles of felony sentence, the sentence is going to be 2 years prison on both counts 1 and count 6. They're going to run concurrent with each other. I'm going to impose a fine of $2,500 on each count. On count 7, I'm imposing 60 days jail with no fine, and you'll serve that time concurrent with your prison terms.
When a child experiences trauma, they can be stripped of their ability to imagine. But imagination is colors. All the colors. Imagination is freedom. And whatever you want it to be. But a child without imagination is not a child at all. Will you help defend our right to imagine?